All right, today we are diving deep into some seriously cool medical detective work. We're going to decode the incredible stories that simple sound waves can tell us about what's happening inside our bodies. Specifically, how they reveal dangerous traffic jams in our arteries.
So I want you to imagine this, your carotid artery. It's the main highway carrying all the essential traffic, that's your blood, to the most important city in your body, your brain. Now, a traffic jam, a blockage on this superhighway, that can have catastrophic consequences. But what if we could actually see and hear that traffic jam long before it causes a major pileup?
Well, that's where Doppler ultrasound comes in. Think of it as our secret decoder ring. It's totally non-invasive, and it uses sound waves to translate the movement of blood into a visual waveform, a kind of secret language. And today, we're going to learn how to speak it.
Okay, first things first. Like any language, you gotta learn the alphabet. In the world of our carotid arteries, that means learning to tell the difference between two main players that are sitting right next to each other but have completely different jobs.
The biggest difference, really, it all comes down to one thing. Where is the blood doing? The internal carotid artery, or the ICA, its one and only job is to feed the brain. And you know the brain is always on, 24/7, so it needs a constant, steady supply of blood. This creates what we call a low-resistance pathway. On the other hand, the external carotid, the ECA, it feeds the muscles in your face. They only need a big gush of blood when you're, say, talking or chewing, so it's a high-resistance system. And this one difference, it totally changes the shape of their sound waves.
So how do the pros actually tell them apart? Well, beyond just the shape of the waves, they have some really clever tricks up their sleeves. My absolute favorite is called the temporal tap. A sonographer will just gently tap the temporal artery right on your forehead. If they're looking at the external carotid on the screen, they'll actually see these little ripples appear in the waveform in real time. It is such a brilliant and simple way to confirm what they're seeing.
All right, so now that we know our main characters, let's introduce a little drama into the story. Let's talk about the stenosis. A stenosis is basically like a big, beautiful, three-lane highway suddenly narrowing down to just a single lane. And this traffic nightmare creates a really predictable and dramatic story that we can read right in the waveform. You see, a blockage creates this predictable three-act play. Act 1, just before the traffic jam. We call this area proximal. The blood flow starts to slow way down, kind of like cars slamming on their brakes. Act 2, right at the stenosis. The blood has to squeeze through that tiny little opening, and it creates this super high-velocity jet. Then comes Act 3, after the blockage, or distal. And this is where we see all the evidence of that traffic backup. This is where we meet our number one clue.
And that clue has a name, tardus parvus. It's Latin, and it actually describes the waveform perfectly. Tardus means slow, and parvus means small. So what you get is this lazy, rounded wave with a really small peak. The second a doctor sees this, they know, without a doubt, that there is a significant traffic jam somewhere upstream.
Now, here's a neat little linguistic puzzle from our source material. It's all about perspective. Is it found downstream from a stenosis? Yes, absolutely. Is it the result of an upstream stenosis? Also yes. See? Both statements are correct. It just depends on whether you're describing where you found the clue or what caused it in the first place. Same phenomenon, just two different ways of looking at it.
Of course, just spotting the jam isn't enough. Doctors have to know how bad it is, and they do that by measuring speed. So check this out. As the stenosis gets worse, say from 50% blocked to over 70% blocked, that peak speed, the jet of blood shooting through, it goes way, way up. We're talking from under 125 centimeters per second to over 230. These numbers are absolutely crucial. They're what guide life or death decisions about treatment.
Okay, so we've learned the alphabet, we know the basic plot. Now it's time to put on our detective hats and use these new skills to solve a few classic medical riddles.
So for our first case, picture this. A doctor sees that classic tardus parvus waveform. Now the very first question they have to ask themselves is a simple one, but the answer changes absolutely everything. Is this pattern happening on just one side of the neck, or is it on both?
And here's the solution to the riddle. If that slow, rounded wave is only on one side, the problem is probably in a specific artery higher up in the chest, something like the innominate artery. But if you see it on both sides, that tells you the problem isn't in the neck arteries at all. The source of this traffic jam is much bigger. It's most likely a problem with the main gate out of the heart, the aortic valve itself. Isn't that amazing?
Okay, get ready for one of the most bizarre, most counterintuitive things in all of vascular medicine. It's called subclavian steal.
Here's what happens. An artery that feeds the arm gets blocked. So the body, desperate to get blood to that arm, creates a detour by siphoning blood backwards from the brain. The artery is literally stealing blood that was headed for the brain just to feed the arm. It's wild.
So how on earth do you spot this heist in action? Well, in the early stages, the waveform takes on this really peculiar shape. And our source material notes that a lot of people think this early Steal waveform looks kind of like a rabbit. It's this fantastic, unforgettable visual that helps sonographers catch this strange condition before it gets really serious.
And you know, the stories just keep on coming. A wave that flows forward and then immediately reverses can point to a leaky aortic valve. A complete loss of blood flow when the heart is resting, that can be a very grave sign related to brain death. And a total blockage can even make the main brain artery start to look like its neighbor that just feeds the face. Every single pattern is its own unique clue.
So you see, these aren't just random squiggles on a monitor. They're narratives. They are detailed, dramatic stories about our cardiovascular health, all written in the universal language of flow and pressure. So let's just do a quick recap of everything we decoded today. We learned that different arteries have different signatures, their own languages, based on their job. We saw how a blockage creates that really clear three-act story. And most importantly, we learned how reading these simple patterns can help diagnose everything from the exact location of a clog all the way back to a problem with the heart itself.
So if a simple sound wave can tell us such a complex and vital story about a traffic jam in a tiny artery, it really makes you wonder, right? What other incredible secrets are our bodies trying to tell us, if only we knew how to listen? Thanks for joining me.